Are you a successful public speaker if you manage to convince your audience, if you make the sale, if you close the deal, but you do that by being dishonest? You see, here's the thing: integrity as a public speaker is bigger and more important than a tactical win. Let me show you why. This is Show Stopping Speakers with me, Mobeen Tahir. Here, I share with you stories and practical tips for becoming a memorable public speaker. The boat operator stops the boat and points to the shore. Now, my wife and I at this point exchange curious glances. Maybe we've reached one of the highlights of the tour. But as we follow his gesture and look to the shore, we shriek in horror. You see, moments ago, we had stepped out of a tourist attraction, and this broker approached us selling tickets for a boat ride. Now, my wife and I, at this point, we're on a honeymoon, we're excited. Going on a boat ride is something that's high on our to do list. So we purchase the tickets with excitement and we expect a nice romantic experience. But as we start the journey and that first stop comes and the boat operator points to the shore, we at this point we're expecting maybe a floating market. We had heard about vendors selling goods on boats in these boat rides, but instead of a floating market, we are met with the sight of a nearly 2 meter long water monitor just casually lounging at the shore, mere feet away from us. Now, clearly, our romantic honeymoon has taken an unexpected turn. Now, as the tour continues, we continue to encounter more water monitors, some of them very casually swimming just right next to our boat, a boat which is quite low. And at this point, we're just holding on to each other. We're hoping that one of these things, they don't just decide to jump onto the boat and join us for a conversation and ask us how our honeymoon is going. After navigating a few more rather unpicturesque back streets, we eventually make it to the end of this boat ride, and the boat operator drops us in this fish market, which is chaotic. There's smell of seafood everywhere, but we somehow make it out and we are back in normal civilization, and we are just happy that the 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 experience is over. Now, let me point out at this point that Thailand remains one of our favorite destinations, and that honeymoon was absolutely incredible. We really want to go back to Thailand as well. Such a beautiful place, such fantastic people, such an amazing experience. Highly recommend others. But that single experience of that boat ride is etched on our imagination. It's etched in our minds for all the wrong reasons. Now, the person who sold us this romantic boat ride, in a way, he was successful because he made the sale as a salesperson. He convinced us, he got the deal done, and he he got a tactical win. But of course, even years later, this is something that happened many years ago. Even years later, we think back and we question the integrity of someone who sold us very confidently a dream but delivered a disaster. So, what is the public speaking lesson? As public speakers, our responsibility doesn't just end when we finish speaking. It doesn't even end when we achieve a sale. It, in fact, continues because our audience continues to engage with what we said, what we sold to them, what the arguments that we made. That is when the real test comes. when people reflect, when people engage with our ideas and see if our message actually holds up to the promise. If we mislead them, we haven't just lost their trust, we've failed in our duty as communicators. So I therefore suggest two principles every speaker must always uphold. The first principle: be sold on what you're selling. When it comes to integrity as a public speaker, always be sold on what you are selling. As speakers, we are always selling something. It could be a product, a service, or just an idea. But do we believe our own words? Is what we're saying actually true? Can we stand behind it? Well, if we can't stand behind our message with conviction, we shouldn't be delivering it. So that is number one: be sold on what you're selling. Number two: be an agent of change. If we can't fully support what we're promoting, we have two choices: either change the message or improve what we're selling. If a product or service isn't good enough, then it is our responsibility as the spokespeople of that product or service or that message to go back and change the idea, the product, or the service that we are talking about and trying to convince others about. Integrity means taking responsibility for what we share with our audience, and it is up to us to constantly refine our message and see where we can go back and improve the offering itself. So, public speakers are in the business of influencing others. This is a position of responsibility and a position of influence. And with that influence comes a moral obligation to do right by the audience. A tactical win earned through deception will either backfire on our reputation, or our business. It'll either backfire now or it'll backfire later, but it will eventually backfire. Either you don't get the win because people will question your intentions, or you'll get the win but they will question your integrity later. So be honest. Always be honest. As a public speaker, make sure you are sold on what you are selling and you are an agent of change. And that way you can constantly improve whatever you are selling in the first place. So don't ever be dishonest. And of course, don't ever sell honeymooners a romantic swim with water monitors. And that's it for this episode of Show Stopping Speakers with me, Mobeen Tahir. Thank you for tuning in, and subscribe for more stories and practical tips for becoming a memorable public speaker, and share this with someone who might find this useful. And I will see you next time.